Hello, and welcome to this issue of Discovering Truth at the Movies. Hi, my name is David Lance. Today I want to begin to welcome you to this episode of the Chronicles of Belteshazzar, in which Naaman is attacked as he tries to prevent Daniel from violating the king's command to not pray to his God. The chief priest, Haman, reveals his true intentions to rid himself of Daniel so that he can complete his plot to make himself king of Babylon. Using the story of the movie Galaxy Quest, we'll use the events of this chapter to ask the following question for reflection. How can we help our children to grow to become wise as serpents, but innocent as doves? I just want you to know that my novel, The Chronicles of Belteshazzar, is now available for purchase. You can get it on Amazon.com. You can go to my website at wisejargon.com/chronicles. It's a novel about a boy who learned how Daniel lived by faith instead of cowering in fear. And so that's one of the things that I want to be sure that you're aware of as we go through today's lesson. And so without further ado, let's take a look at chapter 20, in which Naaman is ambushed. Though they were no longer in the sunroom, Grandpa resumed his stance, standing over his special book, The Chronicles of Belteshazzar. Turning to the next part of the story, he began to read. In the 9th year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, the 5th year of the reign of Zedekiah in Jerusalem, the treachery of Haman was revealed. Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, but the God of Daniel thwarted the schemes of the high priest of Babylon. Over 200 of Haman's supporters and their families were eventually captured and fed to the lions. A small civil war ensued in Babylon as the last of his allies were rooted out and destroyed. News of the resulting furor traveled to Jerusalem, where the mad prophets used it as an excuse for Judah to join other nations in rebellion against Babylon and prophesy the imminent return of the exiles. The prophet Jeremiah was himself taken prisoner. Though not swift, the response by Babylon, when it did come, was more than sure. From the Chronicles of Belteshazzar. The moment of truth had come. Haman stepped into the great hall and awaited the sergeant of arms to announce his presence. Now, at the end of the festival of Bel, the harvest festival, everything was in place to allow Haman's plans to come to full fruition. Haman, high priest of the realm of Babylon, the gatekeeper formally announced Haman's arrival. Haman's eyes locked with Nebuchadnezzar's, and he bowed his head. Nebuchadnezzar had been desperate to find a means to explain the survival of the 3 Hebrews in the fiery furnace. Haman had seized that opportunity, which would not only make Nebuchadnezzar beholden to him and destroy Daniel, but also increase his own power. The first part of the plan had now been accomplished with the completion of the new temple consisting of the idol of the Hebrews to worship. Haman not only enriched himself from the new revenue source of the temple sacrifices, but used the food sacrifices to secretly reward his supporters. The added wealth and renewed loyalty of his own followers would strengthen Haman's hand when the time came to implement his own private agenda. Today, he would set in motion the second part of his plan, which months ago he had described to Nebuchadnezzar in great detail. Today, he would propose an ordinance which Nebuchadnezzar would approve that would lead to Daniel's death. With Daniel out of the way, the king would have unwittingly removed the one obstacle preventing Haman's agents from stirring up the tensions among the native Babylonians and the exile groups. Haman would use the resulting unrest to execute the third part of his plan, the crowning of himself as king of Babylon. Hail, Haman, and welcome to our court, Nebuchadnezzar responded to Haman's announcement. O king, may you live forever, Haman replied and approached Nebuchadnezzar's throne. Haman glanced around the room and was pleased to see that all the provincial governors were present. Haman had chosen this day carefully because he knew that they would be in the city for the festival. Haman worked to secure their agreement with the proclamation he had held in his hand. Like himself, they too chafed at the idea that a foreigner had risen to such a prominent position in Babylonian government. Indeed, in their private meetings, Nebuchadnezzar had urged that the decree come from all the governmental officials. How would I be able to refuse an honor which all of my governors wished to bestow upon me? Nebuchadnezzar had commented to Haman in mock humility during those meetings. Yes, the stage was set and awaited only Haman's request to trigger the drama which was about to unfold. Great Nebuchadnezzar, we have celebrated the festival of Bel and have praised the gods for the bounty which they have blessed us. But it is you, O king, who has established our kingdom and have provided prosperity so that we might serve the gods. Therefore, all the governors, counselors, princes, and captains have consulted together to establish this royal statute, that whosoever shall ask a petition from any of the gods for the next 30 days shall be cast into the den of lions, save this: if any man makes his petition of you, O king, he shall live and not be cast into the lion's den. Furthermore, let the people bring their sacrifices and petitions of you to the new temple of Beelzebub in honor of your latest work, honoring the gods. Therefore, for the next month, the people shall worship only Nebuchadnezzar, protector of the gods of Babylon. Haman approached Nebuchadnezzar's seat and unrolled the small scroll containing the decree. A scribe came forward to accept the document and hand it to the king. Taking the stylus in hand, he looked around the room. As Haman had planned, Daniel was not present. His gaze fell upon the place where Naaman would have been vacant because of a false emergency Haman had arranged that required the captain of the guard's attention. Looking into the king's eyes, Haman watched as Nebuchadnezzar reached first for the decree and then for the stylus in order to sign the document. Smiling, Nebuchadnezzar said, "So shall it be written, so shall it be done. By my hand I established this decree, which not even I can revoke." Haman smiled as the king signed the decree, going over in his mind how to take Daniel. A creature of habit, the wizard prayed to his God 3 times daily. Indeed, Haman had chosen this honor to request the decree, knowing that Daniel would be away from the court, consumed by the worship of his pitiful God. Within 24 hours, news of the proclamation would have spread throughout the city, and by morning, his agents would apprehend Daniel for disobeying the ordinance. That would be the end of his enemy. Followed by 4 of his guards, Naaman set a swift and steady pace towards Etemenaki, where Daniel had his prayer chamber. Soon after the ziggurat had been completed, Daniel had moved his quarters to the temple for the sake of convenience in praying to his God. Daniel would be arising in about a half an hour to go and make his morning prayers, so Naaman didn't have much time to prevent his friend from violating the decree which Nebuchadnezzar had issued. Not for the first time, Naaman asked himself why he had not been made aware of the decree sooner. Timnah had come looking for him, but he had been in another part of the city when she had arrived. The servant with whom she had left the message had failed to convey to him when he had finally come home to retire for the night. Had he not awakened from a fitful sleep and learned of Timnah's attempt to reach him from one of the other servants, he would have no chance to warn Daniel. As it was, Naaman could not be certain that Haman's henchmen did not already lay in wait, hoping to catch Daniel violating Nebuchadnezzar's decree. Rounding a corner, Naaman could see the outline of the ziggurat of Etemenaki in the pre-dawn light. Daniel's quarters were on the 2nd level of the edifice, from where he would have to climb the stairs to reach the prayer chamber on the 6th level, though Daniel sometimes chose to pray within his quarters. If he couldn't persuade Daniel to suspend his prayer ritual, Naaman resolved to use force, at least on this occasion, to achieve his goal. It was a dangerous game he was playing, and right now, Naaman was reacting to circumstances. Though he longed for the chance to think through this series of events, it was an opportunity that would elude him. Absorbed in his thoughts, Naaman failed to notice the beggar sitting against the building so he had just rounded, asleep with a cloak pulled over his head. Naaman and his men neared the base of the ziggurat and began to make their way up to it. A few feet from the staircase, a second beggar appeared in their path. Bent over and leaning on a staff, the man lifted his cup, saying, "Alms, alms for the poor. Surely my Lord can turn aside and help an old cripple forsaken by the gods." "Out of my way, old man," Naaman said, pushing the outstretched hand away and continuing to move past him. Dimly in the subconscious reaches of his brain, Naaman registered a foreign accent in the beggar's voice, one hard to place. In the split second of hesitation of noting something amiss and reacting to it, the beggar pivoted in a 360-degree turn, whipping the staff around him in an arc aimed at Naaman's knees. Unable to avoid the blow, the staff hit him in the calf muscles. With the deftness of one accustomed to wielding the staff, Naaman's attacker, who was clearly no mere beggar, lifted his feet out from under him. Gritting his teeth as the pain from the blow shot through his legs, Naaman slapped his forearms to the ground, breaking his fall as he landed on his back. With no time to recover, Naaman saw his assailant draw a sword and prepare to bring it down with a powerful two-handed blow to his head. Naaman rolled toward the man, crashing into his shins and causing him to tumble forward. Painfully, Naaman regained his footing and, drawing his sword, watched his opponent recover from his tumble and come to his feet, sword pointed at Naaman. Stealing a quick look at the scene around him, Naaman saw one of his men down, another wounded, and realized they had walked into a trap. These were no homeless beggars, but skilled warriors bent on preventing Naaman and his men from reaching Daniel. Naaman let out a war cry and charged the assassin. Feigning with a two-handed sword thrust at the enemy, Naaman then swiftly pivoted clockwise on his left foot, bringing his sword in a curving upward arc to try to slip below the man's defenses. But just as quickly, the warrior parried his blow and countered with one of his own, grazing Naaman's momentarily exposed midsection. In that instant, Naaman realized that his opponent, his equal in physical stature, was clearly as skilled as himself, perhaps more so. As their swords met and sparks flew, Naaman looked into the dark eyes of his enemy and, putting the man's accent together with his features, snarled, "You are a dead man, you Greek dog." Letting go of his blade with his left hand, Naaman struck a blow to the man's chin, rocking him backward. But before Naaman could follow up his momentary advantage, he was felled by a blow to his head. His helmet went rolling as Naaman managed to break his fall with both hands. "Guards coming, Troas, we must leave now," a voice said from somewhere. Three sets of footsteps retreated from the scene, leaving Naaman dazed. Shaking his head to fend off unconsciousness, Naaman looked around to see two of his men badly wounded and the other two not moving, presumably dead. A fifth man lay still, presumably one of the attackers who had ambushed them. Turning his head, Naaman saw a small troop of soldiers with the emblem of Haman's personal bodyguard approach. Two of their number broke ranks to attend Naaman and his surviving men. The rest proceeded to mount the steps of Entamanaki. As Naaman slipped into unconsciousness, he was vaguely aware that he had failed to protect Daniel. And now, if I may, I'd like to share a personal reflection. The story of the Chronicles of Belteshazzar builds to a climax with the imprisonment of Daniel in the lion's den because he broke the law by praying to God. In this chapter, I decided to pull from a portion of the storyline of my original book, The Brotherhood of the Scroll, that is not included in this novel in order to prevent Naaman from once again coming to Daniel's rescue. In the original storyline, a Greek mercenary named Troas is hired by the Egyptians to help them fight against Babylon. Both Naaman and Troas have a love interest in Timnah, and in the final chapters of my first novel, they meet in a fight to the death. This chapter borrows from that storyline to create a scene where Troas, disguised as a beggar, leads a group of his own men to ensure that Daniel will be taken prisoner. Troas has learned through his spy network of Haman's plans to have Daniel killed, and so by stopping Naaman, hopes to ensure this mutually beneficial assassination. As I continue to market the Chronicles of Belteshazzar, the thought has occurred to me to use the writing device of Grandpa talking to his grandchildren to bring out other aspects of the original storyline that don't appear in this work. If you, the listener, have any thoughts on that, either pro or con, please let me know. Another aspect of the chapter is that Haman's true desires to completely take over Babylon are revealed to the reader. For adult readers, we can easily see how evil people are duplicitous, pretending to be something they are not. However, children who are just hitting their preteen and early teen years may find this concept difficult to grasp. There is a scene from the movie Galaxy Quest that I feel truly illustrates the challenge of learning that someone you trust has actually been lying to you. In the movie Galaxy Quest, Jason Nesmith, played by Tim Allen, is an actor who plays the commanding officer on the Star Trek TV show Galaxy, the Star Trek TV show like Galaxy Quest. Now, in syndication reruns, the Galaxy Quest cast makes a living reshape. I'm having a hard time, folks. Sorry, making a living rehashing their old TV episodes. One day, Nesmith unwittingly agrees to make an appearance for real aliens, the Thermians, who have come to Earth to recruit him and the rest of the Galaxy Quest cast members to pilot a spaceship the Thermians have built based on the historical documents, that is, past TV shows of the Galaxy Quest show. Nesmith discovers this is all real and is confronted by the alien commander Saris, who wants a device called the Omega-13. Nesmith tells Saris he doesn't know what it is, what it does, but Saris doesn't believe him, saying, "You think that I am a fool, that the commander does not know every bolt, every weld of his ship?" The truth that Nesmith is a fraud devastates his Thermian friends. This is the conversation between Saris and Nesmith. How can the commander not know something about his ship? Because I'm not the commander. I'm an actor. I just play the commander on TV. And so this leads to this question for reflection. How can we help our children to grow to become wise as serpents, but innocent as doves? Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Chronicles of Belteshazzar, which is available as a paperback and a Kindle version on Amazon.com. I encourage you to go to my website, wisejargon.com, and /@the-movies to learn more about my newsletter, Conversations with the Culture, and other aspects of what I do. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. And until next time, thanks so much and God bless.